Hi everyone, Ryan Duffy here from Precision Microbes again. We're back for another Tech in 10.
Hi, Tommy Heffernan here as well. Ryan, glad to be back. And we're, a subject close to your own heart as a suckler farmer, maybe, and not from just being a vet and nutritionist, but weaning the suckler calf. So we're heading off, Matthias, let's go.
10 minutes on the dot. Okay, Tommy, so we're going to wean a suckler calf. I'm kind of guessing, where do we actually start? When do we start preparing for weaning the suckler calf?
Fail to prepare or I can't do that one. Preparation is key. That's the key message. You're thinking about suckler calves, weaning time, September, October, depending on the part of the country. Now is the time to think of it. So look, a lot of people would have heard this before, but I'm just trying to go through the key aspects again of weaning. I suppose you look at it, you can talk about what you do at home as well, but weaning equals one big word: stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people, like, stress is bandied around the place the whole time. Oh, I'm stressed, the animals are stressed. But, like, weaning is a stressful time. What is stress doing to the immune system? What's actually the mechanisms?
Yeah, well, there's certain hormones. The one that would be probably most well known would be cortisol. And that plummets the efficacy of white blood cells down. So if our white blood cells aren't really going around the way that they need to be going at 100 miles an hour, we're under a lot of pressure. So the likes of pathogenic organisms are more likely to get into the body. So that's why we see a lot of pneumonia around weaning.
So it's really directly linked to immune function. So this is a stressful period, it's a risk period. So we think about, we've lots of different writing here. We're doing 2 Tech in 10s today, so there's lots of scribbling. Ryan doesn't make spelling mistakes. I do lots, but gradual
Don't
weaning.
look too closely.
Gradual weaning, Ryan, that's something people have become very familiar with. So you have a batch of maybe 30 cows and calves out in a field. You know, you take them, and I heard someone say once, take them out by a third every couple of days, leaving a few cows in there, leaving the quieter, maybe older cows in it. It reduces that stress around weaning time. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's practically a wee bit more difficult to actually do, but it makes sense that if the cows aren't being ripped away, it's less stressful on the animal. The issue with it is that if you take a dam away from a calf and he is still in with a rake of other cows, he's not getting to suckle like the rest of them. So that could also be a bit of a stress because he can see other animals suckling, whereas he can't. But at the same time, people are saying that it's working in certain farms.
Okay. One thing that's very popular, and it's the weaning paddle. And I think the weaning paddle works because it creates that he's with the cow, or the animal's with the cow, and suddenly the suckling ability to get the milk is gone. Very, very popular. It just does reduce stress again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And look, we're looking for that slow and steady weaning with less stress. And that's why we're talking about starting now.
One thing we really need to start thinking about now is concentrating feeding, developing the rumen. So when the calf is weaned, it's a fully functioning rumen, the suckler calf is ready to go. So concentrates, creep feeding, when, how much, what are you doing? What are you saying?
Look, I think animals should be fed concentrates for at least 4 to 6 weeks before they're actually going to get weaned. The National Beef Welfare Scheme is massively promoting that. They're actually getting their subsidies out there for meal in particular. 4 to 6 weeks is a base minimum. How much? How long is a piece of string? Some people are adamant about 1 kilo, but we often talk about dairy calves getting 1 kilo before weaning. Suckler calves, they're probably a wee bit more mature because they have been out picking at grass. They probably have expanded their rumen microbiome to a certain degree because of that. They're not artificially reared essentially, but certainly well over 1 kilo for a good strong springborn weanling.
Crunch, nut, what are you thinking? What's the protein content like? You know, you want to, what are we looking at for the ideal nut going into or meal going into a calf?
To be honest, any weanling crunch will do a good job on it.
Okay.
Look, mainly people go for coarse crunches and stuff like that. To be honest, anything at all will work.
Okay, it's about volume and getting it in early, getting them used to it. We won't cover the massive detail, but a lot of people are talking about pheromones now. There's new pheromone products which are basically, I suppose, sensory hormones. I could be using the wrong word there, but they seem to be, that's an interesting space. One of the big things I would say this year is it's been, well, depending what part of the country you're in, lungworm is kind of only becoming an issue to me now from out and about talking to vets and farmers. Getting worming right. So lungworm's a big one because we don't want cows or suckler calves coming in or, you know, at weaning time with that extra pressure. Fecal egg count first, Then worm, obviously work with your own vet, but we want them fairly clean for worms, particularly lungworms, don't we?
Yeah, look, we're getting into the tail end of the year, and it's been relatively dry for most of the country. There has been a lot of rain in recent times, particularly down south. So we're probably going to see a lot more lungworm now coming up to housing as opposed to maybe earlier on in the summer. So fecal egg counts, of course, but definitely looking to do a worm dose at 4 weeks before going into the house.
Again, talk to your own vet, but the fecal egg count's not great for lungworms, so obviously watching animals, listening for coughing. Okay, look, the people have heard a lot of that again, time and time again, but this is an interesting one here. All the bits of stressors that are there.
Yes, they are all going to bring the immune system down and increase stress, be that dehorning if they haven't been disputed as calves, obviously castration or anything along those lines, but even bringing them to sales and marts. Look, cattle prices at the moment are actually doing quite well, so people are actually moving more weanlings. So that could bring on the likes of BRD or bovine respiratory disease because of the level of stress, because of the level of circulating cortisol.
I have a new word for today. It's not very complicated, but don't stack stressors. If you'd remember one thing from me today, it's that if you're going to castrate, transport, vaccinate, worm all in the one day.
House, change diet, everything.
So the more planning you do, don't stack some of those stressors. Think about these because this is going to affect your bottom line. Obviously, key risk time, we mentioned a little bit about lungworm, but pneumonia is the big one people think about from a calf suckler point of view. Vaccinations, obviously speak to your own vet, but vaccinations, the idea of a vaccine is to stimulate the immune system to have kind of like a memory of the disease when it does occur. Mm-hmm. So the key time to be planning vaccines is now as well.
Definitely, because the primary course for most commercial vaccines that are on the market, it's 2 shots either 3 weeks apart or 2 shots 4 weeks apart. So we certainly need to be preparing right now.
Okay, so looking at your vaccination schedule. Finally, if you're housing weanlings or going to sales or going to market, whatever it is, housing, I would try and leave housing till later. You know, look, again, it's easy for me to say on a whiteboard, but a lot of people will wean and then look at housing at the same time. But housing is another stressor again. And I can a really good indicator, if you're struggling with pneumonia year on year at housing or weaning time, you've got to go back and revisit all these things, talk to your vet about what's potentially going on.
Even think of what's happening in the house. We're amalgamating a number of calves and they're going to start competing for meal, for silage or whatever we're feeding them. So it's not even just the fact that we're putting them into an area where there might be poor ventilation. It's a massive issue there whenever we go from outside to inside.
Okay, over the last number of years, I've had a lot of questions from farmers and vets around precision microbes in those older calves at weaning time. And I have to be fair, again, it's observational evidence, but a good few farmers will feed 50 mils through meal. Mm-hmm. So they'll put out there a couple of kilos of meal and 50 mils per head around the weaning period time to reduce stress, sometimes at housing, and they'll tend to do that for a 5 to 7 day period. Not everyone will do it, don't have to do it. If you have animals that are looser and under pressure, it is a nice product there to have in the toolbox as well. But these are the main things to get right, aren't they?
Yeah, so that will accommodate obviously for stronger ones eating more meal and for younger ones getting whatever dose they actually need. Certainly one thing as a suckler farmer, the National Beef Welfare Scheme, people have to exploit that in the Republic of Ireland this year. You're getting €15 a head for up to 40 calves for vaccines, for blackleg, for pneumonia. I think that it's a great initiative.
Okay, and again, we have a healthy suckler herd and just trying to, unfortunately not seeing as many suckler cows out there as before. They're a declining animal, but getting these things right, they're a very valuable animal any year, but this year particularly, it is worth that attention to detail, planning. Look, gradual weaning, getting your concentrate feeding in early. I think wean them on a kilo plus, but I also keep them on it before housing. You know, just don't drop off. Keeping them on feed, consistency is key. Knowing the worm risk is going to be higher in these last couple of weeks.
Yep, definitely.
Precision Microbes is a tool there. Getting your vaccines right, working with your vet. It's all stuff people would have heard before, but look, it's a healthy reminder, I suppose, for people ahead of weaning time.
Yeah, prepare now, start now, because weeks will catch up on you. We need vaccines 4 weeks apart. We need to change diet. We need to do wormers. We should be keeping these separated by at least a week, if not 2 weeks, in the grand scheme of things. So start the plan now.
And again, I love my little don't stack the stressors. Yeah. Just think of each stress if you can kind of split it out over the plan, and that allows you as well to not have all those stressful events on one day.
You have that copyrighted?
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Very good.
That's morning.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks.